You're watching Next Pitch, the student-athlete playbook for parents raising tomorrow's athletes.
Welcome in. Anthony Leverage here, host of the Next Pitch podcast, and I am joined for our Weekly Sports D&A by Dusty Hara. Dusty, I don't know if you kind of, with the weekend off from college football, talking about this off air, do you know what to do with yourself when you don't have a calendar event that sort of dominates your whole week and you build your life around that? Did you know what to do? Was your wife like, you're here too much, let's get you the hell out of the house? Like, what was that like, man?
Always busy. It's always busy. There's always time that can be filled, but it was weird. It is weird. It's weird to kind of go through anytime you go through a season and it is, 6 and 7 days a week where you're just going. And then you sit there and you're like, I feel like I should be somewhere right now. I'm not sure where I need to be, or what time zone I need to be in, but I need to be somewhere right now. Nowhere to be. So it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Built gingerbread houses and
fantastic.
Did all those things.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy, that body clock. I tell people this occasionally. I coached for 19 straight years. And the first year I didn't coach, I woke up one day and was in like the worst mood I've been in. And I'd been pretty happy not coaching at that time, right? It's through the summer and it's October. And I woke up and I was just pissed at everybody. I had no idea what was going on. And my wife told me it was the first day of practice.
There it is.
And my body was used to walking into the gym. Yeah. It was October 15th. It was the craziest thing. And eventually, that went away. But your body and your brain get used to doing something. And when you don't have it, you kind of feel lost.
You get, as an athlete, you always have, well, I guess I will say most of them, because I'm 100% certain that there are people that I've coached and teammates of mine that didn't have this because they were never on time to anything. But as an athlete, you have the recurring dream of, I'm late. I'm late for practice. I'm late for a meeting. I forgot my helmet. I forgot something. And you go, ugh, and it's just that panic-stricken nightmare that you have that recurs. When you get older, what sports are great for is that they give you that structure, that regimen, and you have the dreams. They just shift into something else, right? And so that was me this past weekend. Is I need to be somewhere. I feel like I should be somewhere. I had nowhere to be, and it was great. It was great.
Yeah, my family calls it the tick clock that's going on in my head for everything that we do. Speaking of family, I'm gonna start by wishing my wife a happy birthday. She is
29 again.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
She looks like she's 29. It's remarkable that she has. I've aged way worse than she has over the years. And she's a little younger than I am, but 5 years younger than me. 5 years now, 6 years before today. But happy birthday to her. She former professional football player, Division I college athlete as well. And she's doing life pretty well. But happy birthday to my wife, Sarah. I want to talk about, speaking of my wife, she little off topic. For us, we're not a political show, and I don't want to get into the politics of this, but I do want to start by just talking a little bit about the shootings that happened this weekend. In specific, they're all horrific, but specifically the one on the campus of Brown. And my wife was in a school shooting in 1998. Her dad was superintendent of schools at Thurston High School, and the impact that's had on their lives has been remarkable. And I read something or heard something this morning that there were 2 students on the campus of Brown that this is their second school shooting that they've been a part of. And if, number one, you shouldn't ever be a part of one. Number two, the fact that we haven't gotten to the point where we've done something, and I'm not, I don't want to get into the politics of this, that we should take away all the guns or everybody should have more guns, but something needs to happen either in Washington or at the local level. Something needs to happen to protect our students, our people, from going to a place that should be a spot where they're just getting educated, not worrying about whether or not someone's going to open fire on their campus, and something has to be done.
We spend way too much time on fighting for, no, it's this, no, it's that.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is it's both. It's everything.
Yeah.
It is mental health. It is guns and accessibility and people that should not be getting weapons because of their mental health, which we can't just sit there and point at one thing and say, no, this is it, because it is both. And we know that it is both. And we need to do something to come together and have an honest conversation about what is happening in our country, because you're right, safety is paramount.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that we infringe wholly on our constitutional rights, which are the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
Is something that we do have. And I am not against the Second Amendment by any stretch of the
and we're not going to
imagination.
take them away, right?
No.
There's 350 million guns in our country. The idea that we're going to take them away is ludicrous.
No.
But the idea, I mean, you have little kids, right? They're growing, and they'll be not little for long, but your kids are what?
Both in elementary school.
Elementary school kids, right? I've got a high school kid and I've got a kid in college. Both of our kids have lockdown and lockout drills in their school because of the fear of gun violence in our schools. And it has become to the point, when you and I were kids, we had fire alarm drills, right? And we actually had one here in the building a couple weeks ago.
And earthquake. Crawl under the desk.
Yeah. But our kids are doing lockdown and lockout drills because it is so prominent. We haven't figured out how to stop it from happening, but we're teaching our children how to respond to it. And at some point in time, some people who are smarter than me need to figure out how to make this go away. And I don't know the answer, but I'm irritated about the fact that it's still happening.
Yeah. And look, both sides of this argument are saying it's common sense, one side or the other. Well, both of them need to come together, because that's where common sense truly happens. Is you got to find that common ground to figure out what that common sense is.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it is sad. It's tragic. And we shouldn't have to do this.
It's tragic. All right, man. I don't know if there's a good segue into it, but this is what we do. And I think sometimes, athletics is such a great retreat away, and the drama that happens in sports keeps us moving forward. And
it is the escape from
everything. It is, man.
That is going wrong.
It is. And I want to start with the NFL. We typically start with college football, and we are going to get into your previews of the games, but I want to start with the NFL. It was such a crazy week for so many reasons, right? You had amazing comebacks. You had teams get eliminated. You had some teams that you didn't expect to win some football games. We had injury. We kind of had it all. And I think I want to start with the Broncos. And they're obviously right now, they have the best record in the NFL and have done it a lot of different ways, but they're for real. You don't have that record in the NFL if you aren't for real. And I think a really cool thing that we forget about in sports is that we see the games, right? But there is a process from the time the season ends until your last game of the end of the next year, where you're trying to get better every day. And the Broncos are getting better every single day that Sean Payton is there. And I think it shows that how important that coaching is, how important that process is, and the growth that team has is a credit to him.
Yeah, everybody said this when Bo Nix was drafted by the Denver Broncos, that fit between coach and player is perfect. And from the mental makeup, from the skill set that Bo Nix has, to what Sean Payton does really well and historically always has done well. And you're seeing that come to life with the way that Bo Nix has developed, the way that he has grown. And to be quite honest, it's ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
It's ahead of schedule. It was ahead of schedule last year. And this year you're starting to see it even more. And Bo Nix is a check down quarterback. That is true. That's not a bad thing.
No,
especially when you have the marriage of a coach, which that is the synthesis of his offense. Drew Brees' career was not pushing the ball down the field, and that's a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton kind of fostered that, grew it, and his scheme in what he tries to do is everybody in the NFL wants to push the ball down the field. And that's why we get caught up in this. Oh, well, you got to be able to do this. You got to be able to do that. Well, Sean Payton knows that whether it's Drew Brees or Bo Nix, they can, but that's not what they do best. Every coach should accentuate what the strengths of a quarterback are.
That's such every coach in every sport, right?
Any player.
That's right. And that's in every sport.
Yes.
Right. Like you can't make chicken soup out of chicken feathers.
That's
right.
Right.
You take what you have and you take the ingredients you have and you build the best team that you can based on the ingredients that you have.
And that to me is where you go, all right, if Bo Nix is this check down quarterback, explain the shots that he took against Green Bay, which you force the defense to do something that they're not comfortable with. And in doing that, which is you must take away the short game in the intermediate game if you're playing the Denver Broncos. So what has been the conversation over the last almost decade now? I'll go 7 years. It's the defenses have shifted to the too high safety look, which is capping the back end of the defense and saying, we are not going to take away the deep shots. Well, that opens you up underneath a little bit more. And that's where Bo Nix thrives. That's where Sean Payton thrives in play calling and scheme. Well, you get out of that, and that's what you do comfortably as a defense. All of a sudden, you have to come close to the line of scrimmage, and then you see Cortland Sutton on double moves going deep. That's when you see Troy Franklin in the seam catching a touchdown from his college teammate. That's where you see Bo Nix start pushing the ball down the field because he's taking what the defense is giving him. That's exactly what Drew Brees did. That's exactly the way Sean Payton calls the game, and it puts a lot of stress on teams. The mental side of that from the quarterback standpoint is really difficult to do because you have to be ready for short, intermediate, and deep on any given play. Not all guys are ready to do it. Most guys will look for that first shot, which is your whole shot. We're going to take the shot deep. And then, okay, my second read is going to be in that intermediate towards the middle of the field.
Or take off running.
Yeah, that's not the way that Denver's built. And you saw Bo Nix, though, for 302 yards. He's wildly efficient in what he does. And that defense is for real. And they are legit. But what you saw was the Denver offense was able to score 34 points when their defense gave up 26.
Well, and I think it's that's why I think people love football so much, right? It is the ultimate team game.
Yep.
It is. You got 33 different guys playing, and you can win a football game a multitude of ways. And it's where that coaching, that entire whole of everything, right? Like the offense, defense, special teams, special situations, like all of that stuff. Having a great head coach really matters because it's not just about where you are in week one. It's the development of all of that over the course of an off season, the course of a preseason, the course of the first part of the season, and watching them get better is pretty remarkable to see it happen.
Yeah. I mean, they've got, I think Denver's defense is third in the NFL in points per game allowed. Pretty dang special.
Yeah.
I mean, that they are a really good defense. And we knew that heading into this year. The development that they've shown offensively is pretty remarkable. And then the ability to win tight games is also something that, man, you look at it, and this was another game that was a one possession game. They beat the Packers by 8 points, but you go back and you look at how they've been winning. I mean, they're not blowing teams out by any stretch of the imagination. You go back to the game against Houston, 3-point win, 3-point win against Vegas, 3-point win against the Chiefs, 1-point win against the Commanders, a touchdown win against the Raiders, and then, a touchdown to 2-point conversion win against the Packers. Trends will tell you that will even itself out over the course of a season, and an indicator of playoff success is your point differential at the end of the year. But finding ways to win is that next step of a team that is on the cusp of being really dang special, and now in the driver's seat of that division that's not going to have Kansas City in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're going to be better next year and the year after that, right? They're just going to keep getting better. They're my pick right now, provided they stay in the number 1 seed, which I think they will. But my pick to get to the Super Bowl for the for the AFC right now. People having to come to Mile High. I played at coached at Elevation in Salt Lake, and it's real. I don't care what people say. It is. I've watched it happen over and over and over and over again. The program I coached had an 88% winning percentage inside of the John M. Huntsman Center over the course of 40 years. So it is a real thing.
Yeah, it is. And right now you look at it and their point differential is what? They lead their division, not saying much, but at the same time, Kansas City is 6-8 and they have a plus 60 point differential.
Yeah.
They will not be in the playoffs and they are blowing teams out. Denver is 12-2. Their point differential is plus 81.
Yeah.
That kind of puts it in a perspective of what they're doing. Of the playoff teams outside of Pittsburgh, they're probably at the bottom.
So we're going to stay in the AFC. And I'm curious your thought on this. The Bills do it again, right? So they looked, and we're Bills fans to be, my son is a huge Josh Allen fan. Love watching him play. They sometimes look like the worst team that ever played NFL football.
Yep.
And then show up in the second half and look like a completely different team. Drake May, that guy's on his way to being a very, very special football player. He looked like Josh Allen in the first half, running, throwing, directing, just unflappable in the second half. Josh Allen looked like Josh Allen, and it was a completely different football game. What in the hell happens at halftime to make a team? You can't stop the run. You can't run the football. Josh Allen couldn't come find and all of a sudden they come out and they look like a completely different team. What do you think happens there?
Everybody wants to say it's adjustments, but the reality of it is that it's a level of comfort when you have a special quarterback. In that's it. And look at where Buffalo won that game. They won the turnover battle. In this year, I think they're 1-4 in games where they lose the turnover battle. There was one turnover in the game, and it was New England's. And then they played a clean game penalty-wise. Penalties started racking up for New England. They had 7 for 65. The Bills had 2 for 15. So you look at your plus 50 yards in the penalty category, you win the turnover battle. Those things definitely matter, especially when you're down 24-7 at halftime. But Josh Allen happened in that game.
He did. Is crazy.
But their defense in Milano
at
linebacker,
plays.
He was making plays all over the field.
Yep.
They settled in and took away the strength. They started taking away Drake and caging Drake May in, not allowing him to escape and get out of the pocket. They played a lot better in the back. And that's just a comfort thing. And just sitting there going, man, we gave up a lot in that first half. Special teams played a huge role. They call it hidden yards down in Eugene.
Yeah,
where
I actually love that. I heard that on you guys' pregame show. Yeah.
The hidden yards of flipping the field and putting a team back.
They don't show up on the stat sheet, but they do show up in who wins and loses the football game.
No doubt about it, because like a punt can seem as a loss for a fan base, and for a team it can feel like a loss too if it's a bad punt. But if you pin them deep, if you're not allowing big kick returns, in advantageous field position and giving yourself short field, that's huge, especially when you're in a 24/7 hold. But make no mistake about it, Josh Allen happened in that second half. And this is the thing, you don't have to throw for 300 yards to have a dominant performance as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Josh Allen proved that by only throwing for 193 yards, but 3 touchdowns in that game.
Well, and he was clearly the best player on that football field for the last 30 minutes. And we talk about this all the time, Dusty. It's hard to win, right? And I think another thing that the Patriots are going through is they're kind of the new guy on the block, not in the history of football, but with the group of guys that are in that locker room, right? And you go in at halftime, you're up 24-7. And if we win this football game, we're the conference champions or the division champions, and in the running to be still have the best record in the AFC host, but all the way through. That kind of stuff can have an impact on young teams and young minds. And it's hard enough to win one game. To win a championship, you're going to have to beat a team like the Bills. And the Bills have done this so much. I think there might have been some mental stuff that happened with those young Patriots minds at halftime.
Well, I think Mike Vrabel is going to make sure that the foot off the gas does not happen again, because I mean that's what happened. They were sitting there saying we're going to be AFC East champs. We're going to end the 5-year run of Buffalo running this division, and we're going to be rightfully back on top because we went to their house, we snatched a victory early in the year. We're proving a point in this game, and they did in that first half. And Drake May was electric in that touchdown run by Travion Henderson.
He is big time, dude.
Where Drake May is the lead blocker, 60 yards
awesome.
downfield.
That was awesome.
You're sitting there going, yeah, these guys get it, and they don't want to lose this game. But 10 wins in a row for a young team like that is really difficult. That is difficult to maintain for the course of a season. You can use it as a recentering. If the New England Patriots go out and they finish this season with 3 wins, they go to Baltimore, to the Jets, and then have the Dolphins at home. Like
all games are going to be favored in.
Very real possibility they win all 3 of those games.
Sure.
That's a 14-3 team and the AFC East champions still. And you like where they are at heading into the playoffs. But that goes back to the being ahead of schedule that Denver was at. This New England team is light years ahead.
Way ahead of schedule.
They did not have a defense that was dominant with a young quarterback. They had let's see if our free agent signings work for us. Let's see if Christian Gonzalez can stay healthy. Let's see if our guys can come together. And Mike Vrabel has proven he's one of the best coaches in the National Football League.
No question.
He never should have been fired in Tennessee.
No question.
He never should have been on the street for 2 seasons. And now you're seeing exactly why.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, and the NFL provides so much drama. It's the male soap opera. I think you can miss a couple weeks, watch the first 30 minutes of one game, and you're completely back to being caught up. It's fantastic. I think the biggest story of the weekend in the NFL, though, was all the injuries that happened. And there was obviously some high impact players, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, getting knocked out of the playoffs, and him, being out for the rest of the year, and the ACL tear is terrible. Micah Parsons, it sounds like he tore his ACL, and that's a big blow to Green Bay. But I think one of the biggest ones is Devontae Adams with the Rams. I think he had 9 touchdowns going into the weekend inside the 3-yard line, and he's just a touchdown maker for them. And I think, going into that game, I would have said they're the best team in the NFC, and maybe they still are. But that's a huge impact to them, losing a guy like that was such an impact player for them on that side of the ball.
And kind of found the fountain of youth in LA, and he was having a resurgent year. But this is the problem when you have aging players, right? Aging players get hurt.
Yeah.
Hamstrings, it was bulky, and he'd been kind of struggling through some stuff as of late, and that's a huge loss.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. You sit there and you look at, can they hold on to the best record in the NFC? I don't know. I mean, I don't know at this point, because they right now are tied for their division lead, because Seattle is not going anywhere.
Nope.
They're not going away. You have the Chicago Bears that are 10-4, 1 game behind the Rams. And this is where it comes down to how important that bye is going to be for LA, because you're not going to get him back in 3 weeks. But if you can get him back in 5 weeks, then that becomes more feasible. I don't know, with a guy who's Devontae Adams' age, I don't know if you can get him back in 5 weeks. I mean, a hamstring injury is 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, and they're not calling it a strained or pulled hamstring. Nope. They're calling it a torn hamstring. And I know that term gets thrown around a lot. Doesn't necessarily mean that it got torn in half. It means that something in the hamstring is torn away. Now, there are times like what Dak happened to him last year, where that thing tears completely away
you
from
rip it off the bone.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they're saying. But there is, depending on the severity of the tear, where it is how long it's going to take for him to get back.
And that's something that, some teams do it this way. Other teams just call it a sprain or a pull. Anytime, it doesn't matter if it's a grade 1 or a grade 3. Anytime you pull a muscle, you're tearing it.
Yeah, there's tearing of the muscle.
And there's certain team doctors that just go, yep, tore it. And that could be minimal. It could be significant. And that's where what we do know, he's not playing this Thursday against Seattle, and that's a huge game up in Lumen Field up in Seattle this Thursday. But you probably Won't have him the rest of the regular season. Probably won't need him against Atlanta in Arizona anyway. But can you lock up that first round bye so you're not pushing him back? Because if there's one thing we know about Devontae Adams, if there is a playoff game, he's going to want to play in it.
Absolutely.
If you can get that bye, give him that extra week of rest.
Well, and we'll find out if Taco Bell is good for the rehab regimen. That guy is a Taco Bell fan, man. Hopefully those cheesy burritos he's eating are good for the hamstring.
Look, he may not be using Tiger Balm, but the fire sauce may work. Just rub that on the ham.
Rub it on, man.
It works.
He's got plenty of it. Speaking of aging players, there's a young fella named Phillip Rivers that made a comeback. And I think you told me before we started this that he's older than 15 of the head coaches. His daughter is older than, I know, J.J. McCarthy, older than Riley Leonard, the backup on the Colts, and multiple other starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Drake, man, he's older. She's older than all of them. It is crazy that he came back to play football.
I watched him warm up and I was like, this is going to be terrible. It looked like he was wearing a rib cage protector when he wasn't pregame. And I was like, oh boy. Then, luckily he put the rib cage protector on and kind of hit it a little bit, but you could tell that man has been coaching football, not playing football. And he is to think about what he is doing at coming off the street at 44 years old, which is the same age or older than half of the coaches in the National Football League, including his own coach.
Yes, right.
Shane Steichen is 40. The coach that beat him, Mike McDonald, is 39, and he is 44 years old. Like, those things are incredible to think about. Did he move well? No. Did it look like he was a quarterback, especially at the beginning of the game? He had happy feet. He was bouncing all around.
Yep.
No, it didn't look great. It did not look great at all. But at the same time, he was effective enough to keep his team in that game.
Yeah.
And it took 6 field goals to beat the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
6 field goals. The Seahawks didn't even score a touchdown, right? It was such a weird game because you're like, defense played well enough to win.
Yep.
It must have been Phillip Rivers. But Phillip Rivers, you're sitting there going, well, let's use a sliding scale of a 44-year-old who was coaching a high school football team 2 weeks ago.
It didn't look that bad. I'm curious as an old guy myself, because he's far closer to my age than he is to your age. So I'm an old.
No, I'm only 3 years
Are
younger
you
than
are
him,
you
yeah.
41?
I'm 41.
Oh my God. Okay. So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
bad at my fault. God,
Yeah.
you look so much
Close.
younger.
I know. I look 12.
So but he's old, right?
Yeah.
My question and my immediate thought was, he hasn't played for a long time. So his body's as fresh as it's going to be. Is he going to play himself into game shape, or is he going to be so sore leading into the next week that he plays that it's going to be worse next week because his body can't recover?
I think yes. I think yes to all of it. And look, there was an element of the Seahawks early in that game, especially when you saw the touchdown pass. The defense was kind of looking at each other like, what? We weren't expecting this to happen. Like, they didn't think that and defenses are going to adapt. It's going to get worse before it gets better for Phillip Rivers. I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of white knuckle this thing and see how long he can keep you above water, because look, the Colts are telling you exactly what it is, that they don't have any other option.
Right.
And they wouldn't play him unless they absolutely had to. They absolutely had to. And they lose a field goal fest.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy what that league. Going to be tons of drama. It's fun to watch. More to come, and lots of football coming our way. And this time of year, so many meaningful games. And yesterday was one of the craziest days in the NFL that I think just a regular season day that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wild day where you just saw a lot of you saw mortality for whether it's players that had been incredibly healthy over their careers getting injured, playoff runs stopping. You saw the Cincinnati Bengals eliminated from even a hope of making the playoffs with their loss to Baltimore. You saw the mortality of a lot of teams and a lot of players kind of come front and center on Sunday.
Yeah, and more to come.
Yep.
All right, so let's transition into your world here, man. Big week coming up for big weekend coming up here for college football, and the college football playoff is here. First game's Friday night, and let's dive into each one of the matchups, starting with the game that you'll be on the sideline for, James Madison at Oregon. What are you expecting out of James Madison for fans? You know, they're not a juggernaut on national television where when you get done watching your own team, you just sit down and watch the JMU game. So what do you think fans should see from that? What are you expecting from that game?
Oregon is more talented. We know that, right? We know that they are a more talented team. Top to bottom, the roster's loaded. Oregon has touted their depth against the best of the best in the Big Ten and the best in the country. And that's where these games are really separated by, is it's not, and when you see a lot of these teams punch up, it is, you catch them on the chin and, you know, they get their frontline guys really pop and they star. Oregon has worn even really good teams down. We saw that at the end of the Iowa game. Even you saw it as the course of the Washington game played out. The depth, you just lean on a team, and then boom, the dam breaks at some point. And it's a strength in numbers type thing. That Iowa game was a lot closer because Oregon was down 2 starting offensive linemen, right? They were down Kenyon Sadiq not playing, and they were down DeCorian Moore. And you go, okay, this game's a little bit closer than what people thought it would be. But Oregon has had 2 weeks off.
Yeah, are they healthy?
They are getting healthier. I mean, we have no idea. I don't have any idea either because I haven't been down there and seen anything. But the idea,
and they're not going to tell you.
No. But you think of this, just think of the Washington game where, you know, you had guys who have been questionable over the last handful of games, whether it's Isaiah World, Alex Harkey, Pancho Lalulu, and those 3 guys gutted out, they play. They were able to play against Washington. Now they get 2 weeks off to kind of recover. If they were good enough to play in that game, albeit at some sort of limitations on those guys, those are 3 offensive linemen, 3/5 of your offensive line, right? Those guys get those 2 weeks off. That's huge. And then you have another week of practice and ramp up leading up to it. You know, those are huge. What does the receiver room?
Yeah. What's that room look like?
I mean, who knows? Because they've been so tight-lipped about it. You know, you see DeCorian Moore on the sidelines of games, right? You saw him the week that he got hurt. Everybody's like, oh, DeCorian Moore's done. There were rumors of like a torn ACL or whatever. And then you see Oregon walk out of the tunnel at Iowa and he's walking right alongside Dan Lanning without a limp. Right? Like I don't know, like it is a veil of secrecy around there. And you know, this is like, you know, if a guy's hurt, you remove them, they do their rehab. That's what they're doing. They are committed to the rehab. I don't know. Gary Bryant Jr. went down in that Iowa game with, you know, it looked at the time like a high ankle sprain. He's right around that timeline. I don't know if he's going to be back, but he and DeCorian Moore would be huge in this game. And that's where you say speed and size are the biggest differences there. James Madison, really good on the defensive side of the ball. They are fundamentally sound. You just look at it. Their last four defensive coordinators are the defensive coordinators at Miami, at Texas A&M, and Indiana. And then their current defensive coordinator is on all likelihood going to be the defensive coordinator at UCLA.
Wow.
Okay.
That's pretty good coaching tree right there.
This is a program that they just churn out really dang good coaches. They have a really good staff. Bob Chesney, this is his final run at James Madison, where he's going to take over at UCLA as the head coach there. Kurt Cignetti built this thing.
Yeah.
And the evaluation of talent, and he took 16 guys from that team, and they're doing pretty damn well at Indiana. You look at a guy like Sahir West, who's a redshirt freshman. He was the freshman of the year in the Sun Belt Conference. He's one of their defensive ends, and he has the build of a guy. I don't know what he was coming out of high school, and you watch him play, and you go, how did teams miss him? He's 6'4", 270 pounds, and comes off the edge, and he is fast and physical. I don't know if he was one of those kids that coming out of high school, he was like 6'2", 225.
Yeah.
And you're going, okay, yeah, I could see it. He's not that. He's 6'4", 270, and he can bend it.
He's going to be playing on Sundays.
And their other defensive end is a senior, Amar Thomas, who is 6'1", 240. That's the size difference, right?
Yeah.
That is the difference. But those two edges do such a good job of funneling things back towards the middle. Trent Hendrick is an inside linebacker. He looks the part, man. He was first team All Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year in their conference, and they do a lot of things to funnel right towards him, and he makes a ton of plays. But it's because their edges have been really stinking good, and that's how they became the number 2 defense in the country overall. Have they played a bunch of explosive offenses? No, they play in the Sun Belt Conference, and we'll finally see them tested. Troy was taking shots deep early in the game, especially, and I think if anybody was watching that game play out in the Sun Belt Championship game, at the beginning of the game, everybody's going, dude, why is this game so close? James Madison should be crushing them. Well, it's because Troy was taking some shots and they were successful getting behind that James Madison defense. This will be interesting, though. Their defensive coordinator right now, by the way, was the co-DC at Alabama a year ago.
Okay. Wow.
So and he was the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin under Luke Fickell. He was the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati under Luke Fickell. He is a really bright defensive mind. He's going to have some wrinkles that they're going to throw at Oregon. Can the body stand up to Oregon's massive offensive line? Best defenses in the country have a problem guarding number 18 for Oregon, Kenyon Sadiq.
Yeah, he's a freak show.
This is where that talent is the separator there. Offensively, they are a run the ball team, and they have a 5'7", 190-pound running back in Wayne Knight, who is a little bowling ball butcher knives that rolls down the field. He's really damn good. And an athletic quarterback in Alonzo Barnett, the third, who he can move, man. He can move. If you can stifle the run game, collapse the inside of that offensive line, which Amari Washington, Bear Alexander have been great at all season long, they're going to have problems. James Madison will. But we've seen this story before. And it's the story that everybody around the country loves, which is the little guy has a seat at the table and they want to make a statement.
Yeah. I was at Utah in 2007, 2008 when they beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and it was an amazing thing. But back to Oregon real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously favored. I think they're 3 touchdown favorites, something like that in this game. So everybody's expecting them to win. Do you think they can make a run all the way through? And obviously they've managed to get through the Big Ten, but now you're playing either really good football teams or teams that are playing really good football, and really probably a combination of both. Really good football teams playing really good football every week, right? Can they win 4 games to get to the point where they win a national championship if they're not healthy?
You know this as a coach, like injury luck is a ton of it. They need to get healthy and they need to stay healthy. And that's something that nobody can figure out. Yeah. Nobody knows that. And are they talented enough to? Yeah, they can go toe to toe with anybody. And they got to, if they get past James Madison, and look, they're 3 touchdown favorites. I get it. But, everybody's saying they're just going to bulldoze him and run him over. And that very may well happen. I think the game's going to be a little bit closer than people think, unless Oregon just comes out and just jumps on them early and just goes for that haymaker. But when you look at, all right, what is the path after that? It is Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl, which is one of, if not the best defenses in all of college football. They have got dudes all over the field. And then you look at their offense is streaky. They can look like a team that's going to put up 40 on anybody, but they can also look like a team that's going to put up 15 on anybody, right? But Joey McGuire is an incredible coach at Texas Tech. That's going to be a hell of a matchup. That you got 2 really damn good defenses that have proven their worth over the course of the entire season, going up against 2 offenses that they have been streaky. And if Oregon does have Gary Bryant Jr. and DeCorian Moore, and the offensive line is healthy and the stable of running backs is there, that's a really tough defense to game plan for. And then who knows, like early in the year, it was floated out there that Evan Stewart may be able to make a return. I think that is such an aggressive idea that a guy who ruptured his patella in June is back in January. But if they can get guys back and they can stay healthy, they can go toe to toe, because it's a rematch with Indiana waiting for you in the semifinals.
Let's jump to the other 3 matchups here, just from your take on Alabama, Oklahoma to start. two SEC teams getting after each other. What do you expect in there?
It was a field goal game the first time they
Yeah.
played. This is good on good. You have Alabama's offense going up against Oklahoma's defense. And when I see the good on good matchups, I think that's not where the game's going to be determined. The game's going to be determined on and I don't want to say bad on bad because that's not it, but the lessers of both of those teams going head to head with each other. Is Alabama's defense going to be good enough, or is Oklahoma's offense going to be good enough? Oklahoma's offense, after John Mateer's thumb injury, has not been the same.
And maybe is he starting to get healthy now? Maybe. I mean, you talk about Oregon and health, and a big part of winning at this time of the year in any sport, right? And you get into the playoffs, it just is health, and you can't control that. But he's had some time off too, so maybe he'll look because he certainly has not looked the same.
No, and that's the $1 million question right there, because Alabama and Oklahoma, I think it was a 3-point game before Oklahoma came out on the other side. And look, these games that are on the margins, it's hard to beat a team twice in a season.
Yeah,
it is really dang hard to beat a really good team 2 times en route, especially to a national championship. So, what are the adjustments going to look like? There's a lot of distractions around the Alabama program where you look at, now that the Michigan job is open, Kalen DeBoer's name is being floated out there for that one, and he's having to strike that down. What does that look like? The transfer portal's opening up for all of these teams, and guys that are uneasy, and it's the stupidest thing in the world.
It's so dumb be thinking about playing Oklahoma on the weekend, but also are the guys that are playing Oklahoma this weekend going to be playing on somebody else's team next year? It's the stupidest thing.
But it's the world that we live in right now, and the great coaches adapt and they don't let it affect them. But I think that's going to be a great football game. I like Alabama in it. I like Alabama.
Me too.
Even though it is in Norman, I think Alabama's offense is really stinking good. If Ty Simpson can take care of the football, that's going to be the biggest thing in this game. And
I think Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a football coach.
And I think Alabama's defense is getting close.
Yeah.
They're getting close to turning that corner. So I like Alabama in that one.
All right. Maybe the strangest game of the year for things that don't have anything to do with on the field is Tulane versus Ole Miss. The saga that was around Ole Miss, a little bit around Tulane, but not nobody. We don't care about Tulane as much as we care about the SEC. But every single person who's a sports fan knows what happened with Ole Miss. Now we get them on the football field. And back to your point about Oregon and James Madison, Ole Miss is going to have better players, right? Across the board. But who knows what might happen in that, that something like that could galvanize Ole Miss and they could be better, or the opposite could happen. They could be distracted and I want this thing over with. Let's move on. Be very interesting to watch.
Well, it's interesting to look at too. We didn't talk about this with Oregon and JMU in that, Tosh Lupoy is going to be the head coach at Cal.
Yep.
Will Stein is going to be the head coach at Kentucky. And to a man, you hear Dan Lanning speak about it. You heard Ron Rivera at Tosh's introductory press conference saying, I cannot thank Oregon enough for how accommodating they were in allowing us to talk with Tosh and helping us make this decision. There's genuine happiness from the staff and the players that those guys are getting their opportunity.
Which is another thing that makes Dan Lanning special, right? This is when you win, your staff is going to get pillaged every year or every other year, right? You get a chance. And allowing your assistants that freedom to go is going to allow him to bring in more good assistants who aren't afraid to come somewhere because they're going to be stifled for the next thing.
No doubt about it. But at Ole Miss, it's a little bit different because
a little bit
Lane Kiffin leaves and your head coach leaves to a rival. Well, Charlie Weiss Jr. is coming back to be the OC for this. Are they happy he's going to LSU? I don't know.
No,
I don't know. John Summerall is leaving Tulane for Florida. They are happy for him to do that, right? And it won't affect Ole Miss in this game, but does it affect them in the next one against Georgia? Does it affect them as they try to, go out with a bang this season? That I don't know what the level of trust there is with the players in the offensive side of the ball, especially. It may be clunky coming out of the gate because also, Charlie Weiss Jr. is by all accounts, one of the sharpest young minds in football. But Lane Kiffin helped him a lot, and
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin called plays.
Yeah.
And now this is a new world that Ole Miss is in. So maybe it looks a little bit clunky at the beginning. I still think athletes win, and they're going to win. But John Summerall, I thought if you're going out as a group of 5 coach to a power conference, he did it the right way. He announced a $100,000 donation personally to Tulane.
Yeah, he did it. He is the poster child for how you should leave.
And it's the perfect way to go about your business.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point, though, Dusty. They lost their best football coach.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Kiffin's the best football coach on that staff. You love him or you can hate him, but he's the best football coach on that staff. And when you lose your best football coach and then go get ready for another football game and a run through a playoffs, it is going to have an impact on your preparation, on everything that you do. Having that insight, that level of I've done this before, I know what this feels like, and then just the intelligence, the football intelligence and IQ that he brings to that prep, he brings to game day, that he brings to while it's happening on the field. You're going to miss that.
Messaging is important, and the person who leads the messaging is the head coach. And Pete Golding, I hope he's successful at Ole Miss, especially because he's kind of been the rallying person for the Rebels. But the messaging was from one guy. Now it completely changes. That is different than any other team in the playoff has right now.
Yeah. All right. Last game of the first 4 is Miami versus Texas A&M. And this is a couple of teams that I don't really know anything about. Texas A&M really hasn't played very many good teams, but has a great record. Mm-hmm. Miami was very controversial getting in, or at least a Notre Dame's very controversial getting into the playoff, and kind of sort of are they good or are they not good? What do you think this is going to look like when these 2 teams line up? Or you I have no idea.
I have watched a lot of both of these.
Oh, you
teams,
have?
And I still don't know what's going to happen in these games, because there's consistently inconsistent with both of them. We know with Miami, like, the game management in a tight game that could rear its ugly head, because it has before with Mario Cristobal. They have started feeding their best players at the end of the year. I think you're going to get a steady dose of that, and they do look a lot better. They are explosive on the outside. The freshman Tony is incredible. But Texas A&M, this is the same team that was down by 29 points to South Carolina at home at halftime, and ended up finding a way to win that football game.
You talk about 2 different teams. I actually watched that game too. Like, I just happened to be home that Saturday, and I watched the whole thing, and it was crazy.
Yeah, but they look like a team that should not be in the top 25 in the first half, and then they look like one of the best teams in the second half. Yeah. And that's kind of what A&M can be. You can't afford to do it in the college football playoff, though. I don't know how that game plays out. If it's tight at the end, I like A&M, because I love Mike Elko as a coach, as a game manager, and as a guy who can pull the right strings and push the right buttons. But if Mario Cristobal uses the talent that he has assembled there, I think that they can win that game. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami won comfortably that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lose too. Like, that's the head scratcher, and that's why the 7-10 matchup is going to be a fun one.
Well, and I think the whole idea that a group of guys heard that they shouldn't be in, and you are in, like, there is an opportunity if to galvanize a group of people and to make a run. You got to be talented, right? You wouldn't be in if you weren't talented,
no doubt.
But what's that extra bit of, and I hate to say extra bit of motivation, because everybody wants to win and we're all motivated to win, but there's something about being galvanized at the end of the season, that something happens that gives you a rallying cry. And when you walk into meetings, you're a little bit more focused. When you are what you're eating that week, do I go out? Do I not go out on Friday night? Do I stay out late? Do I come home? There's just something about a situation like that from more than once has helped galvanize a team to give them a run. And I'm not a huge Miami fan, but from my chair watching this, I would think that is something that the coaches are trying to use to galvanize that group.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And finding ways to have everybody pull in the same direction.
That's right.
That's what every coach is tasked with, week in and week out, not being caught up in any moment and being a prisoner of the moment, whether it's people patting you on the back or people throwing you away and wadding you up and saying, no, this team's done. That is the challenge every coach has. And look, if you can get it going at the right time, and Ryan Day's a perfect example of this. We all knew Ohio State was talented last year. They weren't galvanized until they lost to Michigan. They lose to Michigan at the end of the year. They back their way into the playoff, and they end up with one of the more dominant runs that we will probably ever see in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
They just boat raced everybody that they played.
That's right.
And that, to me, is Ryan Day found that motivation. It was nobody believes in you anymore.
Well, and they're pretty talented too.
They were, but they didn't play like it.
I know.
And they didn't look like they believed it.
It's a great point. And it's amazing to watch that kind of thing happen in sports where we talked about it early in the show today, right? Like over the course of a season, the development, the growth, taking a situation that happens and turning that into a positive. It's amazing to see the great coaches be able to do that. And I don't know if Cristobal is that guy. He's obviously gotten great jobs over the course of his career. Well, he's got an opportunity to prove that they belong.
Yeah. And it's going to be a tough road to hoe because going to College Station is not easy.
No, it's not. All right. Just quickly, your picks. Obviously Oregon, right? You're picking Oregon to beat the James Madison.
I'll go Oregon, Bama,
Okay.
Ole Miss, Miami.
Okay. All right. We're on the same party line there. So I will
Perfect.
Hopefully we're
No arguments.
okay. Good. I don't want to argue with you anyway.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Last thing today. I want to talk about the NBA but not as a whole. I just want to talk about one person for a second.
Okay.
Wembanyama. So I've never seen anything like him.
No.
Right. So,
and nobody has.
Okay. So it is. And I've watched a lot of basketball in my life, been in a lot of gyms. And we had a guy when you were at Southern Oregon University, right? A guy named Shea Washington, who was a Division I dude and should have been playing at the highest level in college athletics. And he happened to play for us. And it looked like there were nights that it looked like he was playing against little kids, right? Like he had 40 and 20. And he didn't even have to break a sweat doing it. You don't typically see stuff like that in the NBA.
No.
The impact, he played 7.5 minutes in the first half last night and was a plus 20 in plus or minus.
Yep.
That is insane. What is, as you're watching him, what do you think the impact that he's going to have, not just on the Spurs, but on the game?
I think he's the perfect person for the NBA right now, which is going to be in a transition period with LeBron hanging it up and who's going to be that face of the league. There's a lot of pushback that it can't be a French-born player. It can't be an international player. Well, Victor Wembanyama is the perfect person for that because everything is about the team for him. And I think that's what the NBA needs.
Yeah.
The NBA needs that in a bad way. It's become a highlight-driven league. It's become individualistic. And LeBron has been kind of a great steward for that because make no mistake, LeBron is about himself, but he preaches the team and he preaches about winning being so important.
In between the lines, right? Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama, the criticisms of LeBron is it genuine?
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
But Victor Wembanyama, you hear it is genuine. You heard him when they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder and handed them their second loss of the year. It was in the NBA Cup. And he's like, no, this means something to us because it is about us, the guys in this locker room. And you can't replicate that. And if the idea is that Victor Wembanyama can't be the face of the NBA because he's French, the dude speaks perfect English. He is eloquent and articulate with what he says. And he is a player that we've never seen the physical attributes of a guy like him. He's Manute Bol, but with like Michael Jordan skill set in that body.
I watched him block a shot last year. He started at the block and blocked a corner three. Mm-hmm. The guy had no idea that you're standing in the corner going to shoot a three. And the closest person to you is at the block. No one's blocking that shot. It's the only time I've ever seen anything remotely close to it. And back to your point about him as a person, there's a great article about what he did in the off season. If you want to go find out about him, how he went and did a silent retreat and not a darkness retreat like Rodgers, but how to train his brain. Right. Mm-hmm. It was this whole, it's a great article. Go find it and find out about him. Great kid. Unbelievably articulate. And he's really good at basketball and good at all of it. And I think the thing he wanted to be a shooter, right? Everybody wants to shoot the three. And he didn't get to the paint, he didn't get to the free throw line, and he's completely changed that part of his game already.
Yep.
I think what we're watching is the beginning of a special run. And obviously LeBron's was special, but I think MJ is going to be the closest thing by the time. This is a big statement for me because I'm an MJ guy. I think Victor has the personality, the skill set, and that you got to have some panache to you, right? You got to have some flash, and he's got all of that in addition to being somebody that people are going to root for. I think we're watching something really, really special beginning in the NBA, which needs it desperately.
And it's not going to be him trying to be that guy.
No,
it's gonna
that's
come
that's right.
It's going to come naturally to him. And look, the one thing is, will his body hold up?
That's the question. Can he stay healthy?
And apparently, since he was like 15 years old, he's been doing a pre-game routine, which is like an hour, which is just stretching, rolling, making sure his body is ready to go. He takes incredible care of his body. And, when you have people that are 7 foot and over, the biggest thing is their feet and their knees.
Yep.
Their feet, knees, and hips go. And when those go, one of those go, your back goes. And that's the hardest part, is keeping them healthy. He spends an inordinate amount of time on all of those things just to make sure his body is going to give way.
Well, and I think San Antonio handled him really, really well early on of the minutes restrictions, and would have been easy just to throw him out there and play 41, 42 minutes a game and go haywire, see if we can't win 1 or 2 more games over the course of the year. But protecting him, shutting him down last year when he had the problem, not even thinking about bringing him back. I think I really hope he stays healthy, because the game needs something that we haven't seen before, because that's what draws people, right? We hadn't seen what Magic Johnson did. And then you have Magic and Larry Bird, kind of that rivalry and what they did together, the 6'9" point guard and Larry, they could play like a guard. And then Michael Jordan comes to the league, and then LeBron and Kobe. Like it needs something we haven't seen, and Wemby is something that we haven't seen in a dynamic human being, and I'm really rooting for the kid.
You need those people.
Yeah.
You need them. All right, got my question for you.
All right, man.
We had the Heisman Trophy handed to Fernando Mendoza, and then Diego Pavia with the F Indiana at the bar and saying F the voters. Not a great look. Yeah. Also, though, the writers seemed like they were all, and the writers who vote on this, they were all like, how dare he? Well, you always, like, he was hyped up as this guy whose passion for competition and the edge that he has, and is not always doing things the right way. What did you expect from Diego Pavia? Not the best move. Wouldn't want my kid to do that. Wouldn't want my player to do that. But he did it. But that's exactly why you guys hyped him up in the first place.
That's right.
I think this is going to be one of those forgettable Heismans. What is the first Heisman Trophy winner you remember?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, Pavia's mom was doing something close to a pole dance at a game. So I don't know why we're expecting his performance on TV to be a super class act, right? The modeling that he has from his mom. I don't know, man. Holy cow. I don't know. I think my memory of the Heisman comes from the Nissan commercials.
Okay.
The Heisman house, which I love, by the way.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. I don't know that I have a specific memory of the Heisman. I was such a basketball guy for so long as a young kid that football was kind of an afterthought to me. I fell in love with it later on in life. I don't know that I have a specific memory, but my biggest thing is with this question is, don't expect kids to be perfect.
Nope.
And if you got a guy that's shown you that he's a loose cannon before and has a mom that might be of a little bit of a loose cannon, let's give him a little bit of leeway and let him make his mistakes, and hopefully he learns from it, because it's going to stick with you for a long time.
If you love a person for the chip on their shoulder, don't be surprised when that chip shows itself.
I think let's end the show with that. That is fantastic. We don't expect kids to be different than what they've shown you that they are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
man. Good stuff today, Dusty. I love doing this with you.
That's fun.
I'm looking forward to watching all these games this weekend, and the NFL just keeps giving, and now college football is going to be back in a major way, and looking forward to chatting with this crazy game with you next week.
All right, let's do it, man. Hopefully we're still talking a lot of college football and the Oregon Ducks moving on.
Yeah, go Ducks.
Here we go.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.